Hey everyone, I hope some of you are watching on Facebook. This is kind of the first live stream that I've ever done like this. For those of you that know me, you know that I'm an arranger and composer, and I really like using music notation software, and I've started using Dorico, which is a new music notation software. Some of you might be in a similar situation, and I wanted to show you a few tips and tricks of things that I have learned recently about entering music in Dorico, some challenges that I had, and I thought some of you might find this useful. For those of us that use Dorico, we know that it thinks about rhythm a little bit differently than Finale or Sibelius if you're coming from Finale or Sibelius, and it's really good to know these things. This is especially true with rhythms that have dots and ties associated with them. There are tie chains in Dorico, and those are actually treated as one rhythmic unit, almost one note, and they could be moved around in different rhythmic positions. Let's look at this rhythm that I have here. If I can click the right thing, here we go. This rhythm, I have a 16th note that's tied to a quarter note that's in the middle of the bar, and then tied to a half note. We might not actually want the rhythm notated that way. We might want a dotted half instead of this tie. If you use Dorico, you get used to going to notation options, and under note groupings, you have this option, notate as a single note, where a half note or greater, like a dotted half, could obscure the middle of the bar. Often we want to show the middle of the bar, but with a half note, I think it's okay to obscure the middle of the bar. So maybe we actually want it notated like that. A challenge comes when we actually want to enter those notes onto the staff in Dorico. I'm used to using this option right over here, pitch before duration note input. This comes from years of using Finale, and it makes it work similar to Finale, so I kind of like that. I also have the preference selected where I enter my rhythm dots after I enter the note value. That will present a little bit of a challenge in entering this rhythm. So I'm going to play my C. Here's an 8th note. I'm going to add my dot and the 16th and the tie and a half note, and I can't add the dot. In Dorico, if we have a tie chain, you cannot add a dot to it. So how do I notate this rhythm? One option, and there are a couple of options on a Mac, if I do Shift or Option, Shift, right arrow, I can extend the value of the note, and it extends by the rhythmic grid. I could keep going, and I can extend the value of this note, or I can take away from the value of the note. So that's one way to do it. I think that's really handy in a lot of situations, something you can't do in Finale or Sibelius, but at times it makes it a little bit harder to enter the notes that you're thinking of in your head. One option would be to go to the preferences and change this under note input and editing and enter your rhythm dot before inputting the note. Let's try it that way. So now I'm going to play my C. I'll press the dot first, so dot, and then 8th note, and then 16th, tie, and now I want dot and half, and that gives the dotted half. So that is a different way to do it in changing the note input method. What about this next rhythm? Dorico has this thing with implicit and explicit rests, which is really kind of confusing, but that's what it does. You see the rhythmic grid there. I can press the right arrow and just advance on the rhythmic grid to that second 8th note position and enter an 8th, and it automatically puts that rest there before. What about the 16th? How do I do that? If you're doing Finale or Sibelius, just without playing a note, you can enter the rest, and it's easy. With this, we have to advance that caret by a 16th, but we're not using the 16th rhythmic grid. I'll show you that in a minute. But what you do, you press comma and then 16th, and that will advance by a 16th note. I can play my 8th note. Now I have the 16th rests on either side, advance the caret again with the right arrow and enter my E flat. That's one way to do it. You have to do this first 16th rest would be considered an explicit rest that I entered rather than an implicit one that Dorico did on its own. So a little bit weird. Another option, I have to look over here at my other screen, would be to change the rhythmic grid to 16th notes. And that way you don't have to worry about the explicit rest at all. That sounds funny, an explicit rest. Like it's a rest that's going to start cussing or something. Anyway, so now I have to advance by 2/16. Uh-oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Advance by 2/16. Play my G. There's an 8th note. Now just advance by 1/16 for the F. And now here's my E flat. That's a little bit easier, but you end up doing more back and forth with your right arrow and left arrow to go back for your rests. Again, note input in Dorico is just a little bit different. There are so many great things about how Dorico can work, like how you can extend your caret and enter music in 2 staves at the same time. I think that is a great thing that Finale and Sibelius can't do. There are so many great features and page layout things and so many great things about Dorico, but some of these with dots and ties and rests is a little bit challenging. So those of you that use Dorico, I thought you might appreciate it. Leave any questions or comments down below, and if I know, I'll try to answer it or maybe refer you to a Dorico forum. If you do arranging and writing, tell me what notation software you use. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.